The dimensional resonance cannon fired with a sound that shouldn't exist in the vacuum of space. Reality itself seemed to scream as the weapon's energy tore through dimensions that normal physics couldn't touch. The beam struck the Hive Mother's massive hull and did something impossible. It made the bioarmor forget how to adapt. For millions of years, Devourer organisms had survived by changing their structure to counter any attack. Energy weapons were absorbed and converted to useful power. Kinetic attacks were distributed and deflected. Exotic matter was processed and integrated. They were evolution perfected, adaptation made manifest. But the resonance cannon didn't attack their armor. It attacked the quantum foundations that allowed adaptation to work. The fundamental forces that held their biomatter together began to unravel. "Direct hit," reported Sensors Officer O, his voice filled with amazement. "The target's bioarmor it's losing coherence. The quantum structure is collapsing." The Hive Mother's psychic scream shattered 3 nearby asteroids and made every living being within 100 light-years feel a moment of absolute terror. The creature that had been a force of nature suddenly found itself vulnerable for the first time in its existence. "All human vessels, concentrate fire on the damaged sections," ordered Captain Kim. "Don't let it recover." The hidden human fleet opened fire as one. The Titan and Colossus added their massive guns to the barrage. Mining ships revealed weapon systems that had been disguised as ore processors. Transport vessels deployed missile swarms that had been stored in fake cargo holds. But the victory celebration was premature. Space began tearing open in dozens of new locations as more dimensional rifts appeared. The energy signature from the resonance cannon had acted like a beacon, calling every devourer in the nearby dimensions to this location. "Sir," O said urgently, "massive contacts emerging from multiple rift points. I count 40, 60, over 100 bioships of various sizes, and something else. Something much larger." Through the largest rift came a creature that dwarfed even the Hive Mother. It was less a ship than a living moon, its surface crawling with organic weapons and breeding chambers. Ancient beyond measure, it radiated psychic power that made reality bend around it like water around a stone. The Devourer Queen had arrived. Her mental voice reached every conscious mind in the galaxy, carrying with it the weight of eons and the authority of apex evolution. "So, the Guardian's children still live in this galaxy. I wondered why these inferior larvae had weapons that could harm my offspring. Now I understand." Dr. Young-Ho Seo, monitoring from his research vessel, checked his most classified databases. "Captain, according to the Forbidden Records, that's a Queen-class organism. They're not just weapons or breeders. They're the central intelligence of the entire Devourer species. That thing has been alive since before most stars were born." Commander Seojin Jung's voice came over the tactical net from his command ship. "All human vessels, this is Operation Final Guardian. Deploy all reserved units. Hold nothing back." Across 3 star systems, humanity's true strength finally revealed itself. Orbital platforms that had masqueraded as civilian installations for decades opened like flowers to reveal weapon systems that made the Behemoth's guns look small. Asteroid belts came alive as hidden bases activated their defensive grids. Even the space stations around major colonies began to move, their civilian facades falling away to show the fortress ships they had always been. Humanity had turned its entire civilization into a weapon aimed at this moment. The Devourer Queen studied the emerging human fleet with interest rather than concern. "Clever little guardians. You hid your true nature well, but you are few and we are legion. Your ancestors fought us to a draw when they numbered in the billions. How many of you are there now? A few million at most? Numbers aren't everything," Captain Kim replied, knowing the psychic entity would hear his thoughts. "Sometimes quality matters more than quantity. We shall see." The battle that followed spread across multiple star systems as Devourer bioships clashed with human vessels that had been preparing for this fight for 3 centuries. The aliens watched in awe as their primitive allies deployed weapons that pushed the boundaries of known science. The Behemoth, its dimensional cannon recharging, found itself facing a pack of smaller bioships that moved like hunting animals. Their tactics were perfect, their adaptations flawless. Against any normal opponent, they would have been unstoppable. But Engineer Park had spent 40 years preparing for exactly these creatures. "Activating secondary defense grid," he announced calmly. "Deploying hunter-killer drones." The Behemoth's hull opened like a hive as thousands of small attack drones swarmed out. Each one was built like a kinetic missile, with just enough intelligence to find targets and adapt to their evasive maneuvers. The bioships tried to adapt their defenses, but the drones were too simple to counter effectively. "The beauty of stupid weapons," Park explained to the bridge crew as they watched the drones tear apart bioarmor that had shrugged off quantum torpedoes. "They can't adapt to something that doesn't have any complexity to adapt to." Meanwhile, Dr. Yoonji Yu was coordinating with the alien survivors, helping them understand how human tactics worked. "Don't try to match their sophistication," she explained to a group of Zenthari engineers. "Use simple solutions. Kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, basic physics. Complex doesn't mean better." The converted alien ships began to have success as they learned to think like humans instead of advanced civilizations. Simple was effective. Crude worked. Primitive meant reliable. But the Devourer Queen was learning too. Her psychic attacks grew more focused as she studied human mental defenses. Her bioships began adapting new tactics designed specifically to counter kinetic weapons. "Sir," reported Weapons Officer Lee, "the enemy is starting to develop countermeasures. Their new bioarmor configurations are more resistant to physical impacts." "Then we adapt too," Kim replied. "That's what humans do. We improvise." Engineer Park's voice came over the communication system with excitement. "Captain, I have an idea. It's completely insane, but it might work. What if we don't try to fight the Queen directly?" "What do you mean?" "Look at the tactical display. Every Devourer ship is connected to her psychically. She's the central processing unit for their entire network. What if we overload that network instead of trying to destroy individual ships?" Kim studied the battle display. Park was right. The bioships moved with perfect coordination because they were all extensions of the Queen's will. Cut that connection, and they would become confused and vulnerable. How do we overload a psychic network? With the one thing Devourers can't adapt to, Park replied with a grin in his voice. Chaos. Pure human chaos. The plan was insane and desperate. Every human ship would broadcast on the same psychic frequencies the Devourers used for communication. But instead of organized thoughts, they would transmit pure noise. Human emotions, random memories, chaotic impulses, and most importantly, the one thing that had always made humanity different from other species, unpredictability. "All human vessels," Kim announced, "prepare for Operation Mindstorm. Open all psychic channels and broadcast everything. Don't think, don't plan, just be human." Dr. Yu coordinated with the alien crews who were still functional. "Join the broadcast. Don't try to be organized or logical. Be emotional. Be chaotic. Be alive." The psychic storm that erupted across the battle zone was unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. Thousands of human minds broadcasting simultaneously, their thoughts chaotic and unfiltered. Love, hate, hope, fear, dreams, nightmares, and above all, the stubborn refusal to give up that defined humanity. The Devourer Queen, accustomed to the ordered thoughts of evolved species, found her network flooded with psychic noise that made no sense. Human memories of first kisses mixed with technical specifications for weapons. Children's laughter echoed alongside battle cries. The organized perfection of Devourer communication dissolved into beautiful, maddening chaos. "What is this?" The Queen's psychic voice cracked with confusion and pain. "This noise, this disorder. How can minds function in such chaos?" "That's the secret," Captain Kim replied as he watched bioships begin to drift aimlessly, their connection to their Queen severed by the psychic storm. "We don't function in chaos. We thrive in it. Chaos is where humans do our best work." The tide of battle turned as Devourer coordination collapsed. Bioships that had moved like extensions of a single will now acted like confused animals. Their perfect tactics became random aggression. Their adaptive armor couldn't compensate for the loss of central control. And in that moment of confusion, the human fleet struck with everything they had. The Titan and Colossus focused their fire on the Queen herself, their massive guns hurling shells the size of buildings at her bioarmor. Mining ships deployed explosives that had been disguised as industrial equipment. Transport vessels became missile platforms. The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity's primitive technology systematically destroyed the most advanced biological weapons ever created. The secret wasn't better science or superior evolution. It was something much simpler and much more dangerous. It was human stubbornness, human chaos, and the absolute human refusal to accept that anything was impossible. Admiral Velthara's pride lay in pieces around her like the debris of her shattered ship. The Star's Edge, the finest vessel in the Zenthari fleet, drifted helplessly through space with its quantum shields offline and its crew barely functional. The elegant weapons that could crack planets had proven useless against enemies that didn't follow the rules of civilized warfare. "Human vessel," she transmitted, her voice heavy with something she had never felt before: humility. "This is Admiral Velthara requesting tactical coordination. We need your help." Captain Kim looked at the tactical display showing the scattered remains of what had been the galaxy's most advanced battle fleet. Zenthari ships hung dead in space. Krillian vessels fled in panic. The proud formations that had mocked his ship just weeks ago were broken and afraid. "Admiral, we're transmitting modification protocols to your engineering teams. Your weapons can be adapted to kinetic principles if you reconfigure the particle accelerators. It won't be pretty, but it will work." "Kinetic principles?" The silver-skinned admiral sounded confused. "You mean throwing rocks?" "Very fast, very smart rocks," Engineer Park interjected over the communication channel. "Your particle cannons can fire solid projectiles instead of energy beams. The bioarmor can adapt to energy, but metal is metal. Physics doesn't change just because something is alive." Across the battle zone, human technical teams began boarding alien ships to help with the modifications. Dr. Yoonji Yu led medical teams to treat alien crew members suffering from psychic trauma, using treatments that other species had dismissed as primitive. "The Clarity Serum is working," she reported to Captain Kim. "Their brain chemistry is different from ours, but the basic principles are the same. We can protect them from the Devourer mental attacks." Meanwhile, Communications Officer Taehyun Oh was coordinating with ships that were revealing themselves across the galaxy. Vessels that had been dismissed as civilian transports were uncloaking to reveal massive weapon systems. The human merchant marine was actually the largest hidden military force in known space. "Sir," Oh reported, "the Titan and Colossus are moving to intercept the second wave of Devourer ships. The mining platform New Beijing has deployed its full defensive grid, and the cargo hauler Pacific Runner is requesting permission to use its special payload." Kim smiled grimly. "Tell them all weapons are authorized. It's time to show these ancient monsters what 3 centuries of preparation looks like." The behemoth shuddered as another Devourer bioship tried to ram it directly. The organic creature was desperate now, its adaptive armor failing against the sustained kinetic bombardment. Its bioplasma weapons carved gouges in space itself, but couldn't penetrate the human ship's layered defenses. "Target Beta is showing critical damage," reported Weapons Officer Lee. "Hull breaches on 17 levels. Bioarmor integrity down to 30%. Keep firing. Don't give it time to adapt." The second Devourer ship died in a cascade of explosions as its internal organs were shredded by hypervelocity shells. The creature's psychic death scream joined its companions, creating a chorus of pain that made reality itself seem to weep. But the celebration was short-lived. Sensors Officer O's voice cut through the bridge chatter with urgent warnings. "Sir, massive energy signatures detected at the dimensional rift points. Something big is coming through." The largest tear in space expanded like a wound in reality. Through it came something that made the previous Devourer ships look small. The new arrival was the size of a small moon, its bioarmor so thick and complex that it looked like a living planet. Organic weapons covered its surface like mountain ranges. This was no mere bioship. This was a Devourer hive mother. "By the void," whispered Admiral Velthara. "What is that thing?" Dr. Young Ho Seo, monitoring from the Human Archaeological Research Vessel, checked his historical databases. "Hive mother class bioorganism. The records say they're mobile breeding factories. They can create new Devourer ships from raw matter and produce thousands of offspring at once." The hive mother's psychic voice boomed across space with authority that had crushed entire civilizations. "Enough. The larvae have played with these inferior creatures long enough. I will cleanse this infestation personally." Captain Kim studied the tactical readings from the massive organism. It was easily 50 times larger than the behemoth, with bioarmor layers that had adapted over millions of years. Its weapons could probably destroy entire fleets with single shots. "Sir," Engineer Park said quietly over the internal communication, "we have one option, but it's never been tested in actual combat." "What option?" "The dimensional resonance cannon. The theoretical weapon system we've been developing based on Guardian technology. It can disrupt the quantum foundations that hold bioarmor together. Kim considered this. The weapon was experimental, built from plans found in ancient ruins that most species thought were myths. Using it would reveal humanity's deepest secrets to the entire galaxy. What's the risk? He asked. Total system failure and probable destruction of the ship. The energy requirements will drain our entire power grid. We'll be defenseless for several minutes while the weapon charges. Around the bridge, the crew continued their duties with calm professionalism. No one showed fear or hesitation. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Do it, Kim ordered. Signal all human vessels to provide covering fire. We're going to kill that thing. The behemoth began another transformation. Armor plates slid away to reveal the ship's most carefully guarded secret. A weapon system built from technology that predated most galactic civilizations. The dimensional resonance cannon had been reverse-engineered from ruins left by the mysterious Guardians, the ancient race that had fought the Devourers to a standstill eons ago. Weapon charging, reported Park. All available power being redirected to the resonance matrix. Estimated charge time 4 minutes. The Hive Mother noticed the energy buildup and turned its attention to the human ship. Its massive bioweapons began tracking toward the behemoth with predatory interest. Incoming, shouted O. Bioplasma barrage, direct course. Impact in 30 seconds. The other human ships moved to intercept, their own weapons firing desperately to draw the Hive Mother's attention. The converted alien vessels joined them, their hastily modified cannons adding to the defensive fire. But the Hive Mother's weapons were too powerful. Bioplasma streams that could melt asteroids lanced toward the behemoth, each one carrying enough destructive force to vaporize a city. The attacks struck the human ship and were absorbed by defensive systems that pushed the laws of physics to their breaking point. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the ship as hull temperatures rose to dangerous levels. Hull integrity dropping, reported O. 90%, 85%. If we take another direct hit like that, the defensive grid will fail. How long until the weapon is ready? Kim asked. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, Park replied. Sir, I don't think we can survive another barrage of that intensity. The Hive Mother prepared to fire again, its bioweapons glowing with deadly energy. Around the battle zone, human and alien ships tried desperately to provide covering fire, but their weapons barely scratched the massive organism's hull. Then Intelligence Chief Sunmi Han's voice came over the communication system from her hidden command ship. All units, Operation Guardian is now fully active, deploying all reserved assets. Across the galaxy, humanity's greatest secret was finally revealed. Ships that had been hidden for decades uncloaked and revealed their true purposes. Orbital platforms that looked like space stations opened to reveal massive weapon arrays. Even asteroids began moving, their rocky surfaces falling away to show the fortified bases hidden inside. Humanity had been preparing for this war for 300 years. Every civilian ship, every mining platform, every seemingly peaceful installation had been designed with dual purposes. The galaxy's weakest military was actually its most carefully hidden weapon. The Titan and Colossus arrived at the battle zone, their hulls bristling with weapons that made the behemoth look small. These were humanity's true dreadnoughts, built in secret shipyards and hidden from alien observers for decades. This is Admiral Park of the Titan, came a transmission. All human vessels focus fire on the Hive Mother's weapon systems. By the behemoth the time it needs. The concentrated fire of a dozen hidden human warships struck the massive organism. For the first time since its arrival, the Hive Mother actually staggered under the assault. Its bioarmor, adapted for energy weapons, couldn't cope with the sustained kinetic bombardment from multiple directions. Weapon charged and ready, Engineer Park announced. Dimensional resonance cannon online. Targeting the creature's quantum foundation matrix. Captain Kim took a deep breath. In a few seconds, the galaxy would learn the truth about humanity's real strength. There would be no more hiding, no more pretending to be weak and primitive. Fire, he ordered. The dimensional resonance cannon spoke with a sound like reality tearing apart. Dr. Young-Ho Seo stared at the data readings on his screen and felt his blood turn cold. The Zen archaeologist had spent his whole career studying dead civilizations and forgotten technologies. He knew the signs of ancient disasters. The energy patterns coming from the galaxy's edge matched records that were supposed to be myths. 3 weeks had passed since the fleet exhibition. The alien delegates had returned to their home world, still laughing about the primitive human warship. The Behemoth sat in Earth orbit, its crew running endless drills that seemed pointless to outside observers, but the deep space monitoring stations were screaming warnings. The gravitational readings are off the charts, reported Dr. Seo to the emergency council meeting. Whatever's out there, it's massive. Multiple contacts, each one the size of a small moon. Admiral Velthera appeared on the communication screen from her flagship. Even through the hologram, her silver skin looked pale. Impossible. Our long-range sensors would have detected anything that large approaching our galaxy. Not if they're coming from outside normal space, Seo replied quietly. Not if they're using dimensional travel methods that our sensors weren't designed to detect. Commander Seojun Jung of Terran Deep Space Command leaned forward in his chair. Doctor, are you saying what I think you're saying? Seo nodded grimly. The energy signatures match historical records from the Devourer Wars. The ones most people think are just legends. A hush fell over the meeting. The Devourer Wars were ancient history, stories told to children about monsters from beyond the stars. Most civilized species considered them fairy tales, myths created to explain the ruins of dead worlds scattered throughout the galaxy. But humans remembered. Humans had reasons to remember. Preposterous, declared Trade Prince Zixamol through his translator. The Devourers are myths. Ancient stories with no basis, in fact. Then explain these readings, Seo shot back, displaying the data for all to see. Explain why space itself is showing signs of dimensional decay at the contact points. Explain why our deep space probes are losing contact one by one as something moves toward our galaxy. Chancellor Mordex's gaseous form shifted through worried colors. Even if these readings are accurate, we have the most advanced military force in galactic history. Our combined fleets could handle any threat. Within hours, the Galactic Council's finest ships were assembled for a reconnaissance mission. The Zenthari dreadnought Star's Edge led the formation, its hull gleaming with fresh weapons upgrades. The Krillian battlecruiser Prophet's Dawn followed, its energy shields at maximum power. 12 other advanced warships from various species completed the task force. Captain Kim requested permission for the Behemoth to join the mission. The response was swift and insulting. We need real warships for this operation, Admiral Velthara announced publicly. Not museum pieces that might break down at the first sign of trouble. The human ship will remain in Earth orbit, where it can't interfere with military operations. The alien fleet departed with great ceremony. Their crews were confident and proud. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their shields could stop anything known to galactic science. They were the best of the best, and they knew it. Commander Jung waited exactly 12 hours after the fleet's departure. Then he sent a coded message to Captain Kim. Protocol 7 is now active. Proceed to assigned coordinates. Maintain maximum stealth. The Behemoth left Earth orbit quietly, with no fanfare and no official orders. Its transponder showed it as a routine cargo run to the outer colonies. Only a few people knew its real destination. Engineer Park made final checks on systems that hadn't been activated in decades. All primary systems green, he reported to the bridge. Secondary protocols ready for implementation on your command. How long until we reach the contact zone? Kim asked Navigator Choi. 18 hours at maximum burn. We should arrive 6 hours after the main fleet makes contact. Dr. Yoonji Yu reviewed her medical supplies, paying special attention to treatments for psychic trauma and reality distortion syndrome. Most doctors had never heard of such conditions, but the Behemoth's medical bay was equipped for them. Communications Officer Tae Hyun-oh monitored alien fleet communications. The chatter was confident and professional. The captains discussed formation tactics and weapon deployment like they were heading to another wargame exercise. They have no idea what they're flying into, Oh said quietly. The alien fleet reached the anomaly site after 2 days of travel. What they found there defied every law of physics they knew. Space itself looked sick. Stars flickered and dimmed as reality bent around massive shapes that shouldn't exist. The fabric of normal space was torn in dozens of places, revealing the twisted geometries of other dimensions, and through those tiers came the ships. They were enormous, dwarfing even the largest alien dreadnoughts. Their hulls were not made of metal or energy, but of something that writhed and pulsed like living tissue. Weapons that looked like organic growths tracked the approaching fleet with predatory patience. Admiral Velthara's voice cracked over the communication channels. What are those things? Dr. Seo, monitoring from the behemoth still hours away, recognized them from ancient recordings. Devour bioships, living weapons that adapt to whatever tries to kill them. They consume entire star systems to fuel their growth. The first contact was brief and horrifying. The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams, quantum torpedoes, and particle cannons struck the Devourer ships with enough force to crack planets. The energy weapons lit up space like a new sun. The Devourer hulls absorbed the attacks and grew stronger. Their bio-armor adapted to each new weapon type, becoming immune after the first few hits. What should have been a devastating opening barrage barely left scorch marks on their writhing surfaces. Then the Devourers fired back. Their weapons didn't work like normal technology. Instead of energy or projectiles, they fired pure fear, madness, and despair. The alien crews screamed as their minds were flooded with visions of their worlds burning and their families dying. Reality itself seemed to twist around them. The Xanthari shields, designed to stop physical attacks, offered no protection against psychic assault. Crew members began attacking each other as the Devourer influence drove them insane. The beautiful, elegant ships became chaos-filled death traps. Fleet falling back, Admiral Velthara broadcast, her voice filled with panic. Repeat, all ships fall back immediately. We are taking massive casualties. These weapons. They're not supposed to exist. The retreat was a disaster. 3 ships were lost completely, their crews driven mad before their hulls were torn apart by bioweapons. The remaining ships fled in terror, their confident formations scattered like leaves in a hurricane. And from the dimensional tiers, more Devourer ships began to emerge. Bigger ones, hungrier ones. The Devourer. Queen's voice echoed across space, transmitted on frequencies that made reality itself vibrate. Her words reached every living mind within 100 light years, carrying a message of absolute doom. The infestation has grown while we slept. The younger races have filled our galaxy with their weakness. We have returned to cleanse what was once ours. Your civilizations will feed our children. Your worlds will become our nurseries. Resistance is futile. Adaptation is inevitable. Captain Kim received the psychic broadcast while the behemoth was still hours away from the battle zone. Around the bridge, his crew calmly went about their duties, seemingly unaffected by the terror that had broken the alien fleet. Sir, reported Communications Officer O, we're receiving retreat orders from Galactic Command. All ships are ordered to fall back to defensive positions. Kim studied the tactical display showing the scattered alien fleet. Then he looked at the readings from the approaching Devourer force. Dozens of bioships were moving toward inhabited space, leaving trails of dimensional destruction behind them. Belay those orders, he said calmly. Continue on course. Signal the crew to prepare for combat operations. Sir, O said carefully. The Galactic Council specifically ordered us to stay out of this fight. They said we'd only make things worse. Kim smiled grimly. The Galactic Council doesn't know what this ship really is. It's time they learned. Engineer Park, bring all systems online. Let's show these ancient monsters what humans have been building for the last 3 centuries. As the behemoth continued toward the battle zone, its hull began to change. Armor plates that looked decorative shifted and reconfigured. Weapon ports that seemed like design flaws opened to reveal massive cannons. The old, crude-looking ship transformed into something else entirely. Something that had been waiting 300 years for this exact moment. Captain Kim watched the tactical display as the scattered alien fleet continued its panicked retreat. The Devourer bioships moved through space like predatory fish, their organic hulls pulsing with dark energy. Reality bent around them, making the stars flicker and dance. Distance to target? He asked calmly. Navigator Choi checked his instruments. 200,000 kilometers and closing. The lead Devourer ships have detected us, but they're ignoring our approach. Probably think we're another fleeing alien vessel. Good. Let them underestimate us. It's worked so far. Admiral Velthara's voice crackled over the emergency channel, filled with desperation and static. Human ship, what are you doing? Fall back immediately. Your primitive weapons can't possibly harm these creatures. You'll only add to our casualties. Kim opened a response channel. Admiral, with respect, you don't know what our weapons can do. We're going in. Are you insane? We hit them with everything we had. Quantum torpedoes that can crack moons. Plasma beams hot enough to ignite gas giants. Particle cannons that tear through any known armor. None of it worked. Their hulls adapted to every attack. Then it's a good thing we're not using any of those weapons. Kim replied quietly. The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the behemoth's engines. Around them, space continued to twist as the Devourer ships moved closer. Their psychic emanations reached out like invisible claws, trying to find purchase in the human minds. But the crew remained calm and focused. Dr. Yu had given them all injections 12 hours ago, treatments that most alien doctors would consider primitive and unnecessary. The humans called it clarity serum, a simple chemical compound that helped the brain resist psychic intrusion. The aliens had laughed at such crude methods. Their advanced minds were supposed to be strong enough to resist mental attacks naturally. The screaming voices still coming over the emergency channels proved how wrong they had been. Contact in 60 seconds, announced Weapons Officer Jiwan Li. Her hands moved over controls that looked ancient, compared to the elegant touchscreens used by other species. Physical switches, analog dials, and mechanical triggers filled her station. All weapon systems are green and ready. What's our firing solution? Kim asked. Primary target is the lead bioship, designated Alpha. Distance 50,000 kilometers. Target is accelerating toward the Zenthari survivors. No defensive fire detected yet. The Devourer ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the Behemoth. Its hull rippled with bioarmor that had already adapted to resist energy weapons. Organic cannons tracked across its surface like living creatures. It was a perfect killing machine that had evolved over millions of years, and it completely ignored the approaching human ship. Fire, Kim ordered quietly. The Behemoth's main gun spoke with a sound like thunder, not the silent energy beams favored by advanced civilizations, but actual projectile weapons that hurled physical shells through space. The sound traveled through the ship's hull, making the deck plates vibrate. The aliens monitoring the battle couldn't believe what they were seeing. Primitive kinetic weapons against bioarmor that had shrugged off their most advanced attacks. The first shells struck the Devourer ship's hull with tremendous force. Instead of bouncing off or being absorbed like energy weapons, they punched straight through the bioarmor. The organic material, evolved to adapt to energy patterns and exotic particles, had no defense against simple chunks of metal moving at incredible speed. The Devourer ship shuddered as dozens of hypervelocity rounds tore through its hull. Dark fluid sprayed from the wounds, freezing instantly in the vacuum of space. The bioarmor tried to adapt, growing thicker and harder, but the human shells kept coming. Target Alpha is showing massive hull damage, reported Sensors Officer Taehyun-oh. Internal explosions detected. The bioarmor is failing to compensate. For the first time in the battle, a Devourer ship was hurt. Really hurt. The creature's psychic scream of pain and rage echoed across space, making the fleeing alien crews cry out in sympathy. But on the Behemoth's bridge, the human crew felt only a slight headache. Their primitive chemical treatments and crude mental shields held firm. Engineer Park's voice came over the internal communication system. Captain, all secondary systems are now online, initiating full combat configuration. The Behemoth began to change. Armor plates that had looked like simple metal shifted and reconfigured, revealing the ship's true nature. Hidden weapon ports opened along the hull. Defensive systems that had seemed like decorative elements unfolded into active protection. Grids, the primitive human ship transformed into a fortress of war, my God, whispered Admiral Velthara over the open channel. What is that thing? Captain Kim smiled grimly. That admiral is 300 years of human engineering focused on one simple goal: killing Devourers. The wounded Devourer ship tried to return fire, its organic weapons tracking toward the human vessel. Bioplasma cannons that could melt through any known armor opened fire, sending streams of living destruction toward the Behemoth. The attack struck the human ship's hull and simply dissipated. What looked like crude armor plating was actually a complex layered defense system. The outer layers absorbed and scattered energy attacks. The inner layers distributed kinetic force across the entire hull. Between them, specialized materials designed specifically to counter bioweapons neutralized organic toxins and acids. Direct hit, no damage, reported O. Hull integrity at 100%. The bioweapons can't penetrate our defensive systems. The Devourer ship fired again and again, each attack stronger than the last. Its bioarmor continued adapting, trying to find some way to harm the human vessel. But every shot was absorbed or deflected by defenses that had been built specifically to counter such weapons. Meanwhile, the Behemoth's guns never stopped firing. Shell after shell slammed into the bioship's hull, each one finding weak points that the organic armor couldn't protect. The Devourer creature writhed in pain and confusion as its perfect adaptations failed for the first time in millions of years. How is this possible? The Devourer Queen's psychic voice echoed with rage and disbelief. The inferior species cannot harm us. We are evolution perfected. Your evolution perfected for fighting other evolved species, Kim replied, knowing the psychic creature would hear his thoughts. But we're not like other species. We learned from the last time you came to our galaxy. We've been preparing ever since. The truth was finally revealed to the watching alien fleets. Humanity hadn't been building primitive warships. They had been building anti-devourer weapons, disguised to look crude and obsolete. Every system on the Behemoth had been designed with one purpose in mind: defeating bioships that could adapt to any normal attack. The Zenthari watched in amazement as their primitive allies tore through defenses that had stopped their most advanced weapons. The Krillians recorded every detail, already trying to understand how simple kinetic weapons could succeed where energy beams had failed. All human vessels, came a new voice over the communication channels. It was Commander Young from Terran Deep Space Command. This is Operation Guardian Protocol. All ships are cleared for full engagement. Across the battle zone, other primitive human ships began to decloak and reveal their true natures. Cargo haulers transformed into missile platforms. Mining ships unfolded massive railguns. Transport vessels deployed swarms of kinetic kill drones. The galaxy's weakest military became its strongest weapon. The first Devourer ship finally succumbed to the Behemoth's sustained fire. Its bioarmor failed completely, and its organic hull began to dissolve. The creature's death scream echoed across dimensions as it collapsed into component particles. For the first time in millions of years, a Devourer had been killed in battle. Target Alpha destroyed, reported Weapons Officer Lee with satisfaction. Selecting Target Beta, all weapons ready for continuous engagement. The other bioships, seeing their companion die, finally began to take the human ships seriously. They turned from their pursuit of the alien fleet and moved to engage the vessels that had actually hurt them. But it was too late. The humans had already proven that the ancient enemy was not invincible, and across the galaxy, more human ships were moving to join the battle, each one disguised as civilian or obsolete military vessels. The Devourer Queen's rage shook the fabric of space itself. Her perfect children, her ultimate weapons, were being destroyed by creatures she had considered barely worth noticing. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made humanity angry. Captain Daehyun Kim stood in the massive hangar bay, watching alien delegates point and whisper at his ship. The Behemoth sat in the center of the crystal dome like a sleeping giant. Its dark metal hull stretched over 2 kilometers long, covered in thick armor plates that looked rough and ugly next to the smooth, shining ships around it. The hangar was filled with the most advanced warships in the galaxy. The Zenthari had brought their newest dreadnought, its hull gleaming white and gold. Weapons that could crack planets hung from its elegant frame like jewelry. The Krillian battlecruiser floated nearby, its blue energy shields humming softly. Dozens of other alien ships filled the space, each one looking like a work of art. Then there was the Behemoth. It looked like someone had built it in a scrapyard. Is that really supposed to be a warship? Admiral Velthara of the Zenthari asked. Her voice carried across the hangar, making several humans turn red with shame. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin that reflected the hangar lights. It looks like a cargo hauler that someone bolted guns onto. Trade Prince Zixmal of the Krillians laughed. His forearms gestured at the human ship while his translator made clicking sounds. My mining equipment is more advanced than that thing. Look at those weapon mounts. Are those actual projectile weapons? How wonderfully primitive. Captain Kim kept his face blank but his hands clenched behind his back. Around him, his crew tried to ignore the laughter and pointed comments from the alien delegates. The annual Galactic Council Fleet exhibition was supposed to show the military strength of each species. Instead, it had become a chance for everyone to mock humanity's contribution. Minho Park, the Behemoth's chief engineer, stood near the ship's massive landing ramp. He was an old man with gray hair and wrinkled hands that had worked on starship engines for 40 years. His eyes moved slowly over the alien ships, taking in their advanced designs. A small smile played at the corners of his mouth, but no one noticed it. Chief Park, called Jiwon Lee, the ship's weapons officer. She was young and angry, her face red as she listened to the aliens mock their weapons. How can they say our guns are primitive? Don't they know how much damage those cannons can do? Park patted her shoulder gently. Let them think what they want, child. Sometimes it's better when people don't know what you can really do. Hyunwoo Choi, the navigator, joined them at the bottom of the ramp. The Xanthari Admiral just asked if we need help getting our museum piece back to Earth. She said it clearly doesn't belong with real warships. Museum piece, muttered Taehyun. Oh, the communications officer. They have no idea what this ship really is. Captain Kim walked over to his crew. The alien voices grew louder as more delegates arrived to see the famous human relic. He could hear them making bets about how quickly the behemoth would break down if it ever saw real combat. Sir, Ji-won said quietly, permission to show them what our primitive weapons can do to their pretty shields. Denied, Kim replied firmly. We're here as diplomats, not warriors. Let them have their fun. Chancellor Mordex of the Galactic Council floated over to the human group. He was a gas-based life form, his body shifting between different colors as he spoke. Captain Kim, I trust you understand that your vessel will need to take position at the rear of the formation during tomorrow's parade. We wouldn't want it to block the view of the more impressive ships. The insult was clear. The human ship would be hidden at the back, where it couldn't embarrass the other species. Kim nodded politely. Of course, Chancellor. We're honored to participate in any way. As the Chancellor floated away, Sun Mi-han appeared at Kim's elbow. She was the head of Terran Intelligence, a quiet woman who seemed to appear and disappear without anyone noticing. Captain, we need to talk. Privately. They walked to a quiet corner of the hangar away from the laughing aliens and the bitter human crew. Han pulled out a secure communicator and showed Kim a series of data readings. Deep space monitoring stations have been picking up strange signals from the outer rim, she said quietly. Energy patterns that don't match any known technology. Our xenoarchaeology teams think they recognize the signatures. Kim studied the readings. What kind of signatures? The kind that made our ancestors build ships like the Behemoth. Han's voice was barely a whisper. The kind that made them hide the truth about human technology for 300 years. Before Kim could ask what she meant, a young Xanthari officer approached them. Excuse me, humans. Admiral Velthara requests that you move your ship to the designated parking area. Its bulk is blocking access to the real warships. The officer's tone was polite, but his meaning was clear. The human ship was in the way. Kim nodded to his crew, and they began the process of moving the behemoth to the back corner of the hangar, where it would be out of sight. As the great ship's engines came online with a deep rumble, several aliens commented on how loud and crude they sounded. The Xanthari ships moved with silent grace. The Krillian vessels hummed with barely contained energy. The human ship sounded like a beast waking up. Engineer Park smiled again as he listened to the engine noise. The aliens heard primitive combustion and chemical reactions. He heard something very different. He heard the sound of systems that had been built for one specific purpose. Systems that had been waiting patiently for their time to come. Dr. Yoonji Yu, the ship's medical officer, joined the group watching the aliens. It's almost sad, she said. They have no idea what's coming. What do you mean? Asked Taehyun. Look at their ships, she replied. Beautiful, advanced, perfect for fighting other civilized species with similar technology. But what happens when they meet something that doesn't play by the rules? Something that their advanced shields and weapons were never designed to handle? The behemoth settled into its assigned parking spot with a final rumble. Around the hangar, alien delegates continued to point and laugh at the primitive human warship. They took pictures to show their friends back home. Some made jokes about human engineering and the sad state of Earth's military. None of them noticed Engineer Park running final systems checks. None of them saw the satisfied look in Captain Kim's eyes as he received another coded message from Sun Mi-han. None of them heard the quiet conversation between the human crew members about old protocols and forgotten procedures. The Diu exhibition would continue for 3 more days. The aliens would display their finest weapons and most advanced defensive systems. They would compete to show who had the most elegant designs and the most powerful energy weapons. And through it all, the behemoth would sit quietly in its corner, looking old and crude and harmless. Its crew would endure the jokes and the insults with patient dignity. They would smile politely when aliens suggested that humanity should focus on trade instead of trying to build warships. But in the deep space beyond the galaxy's edge, ancient things were stirring. Things that had been sleeping for a very long time were beginning to wake up, and when they did, the galaxy would learn why humanity had really built ships like the Behemoth. The aliens could laugh all they wanted. Soon enough, they would hear it roar.